Hello. How have you dope ass socially flourishing individuals been doing? I've been fat and retarded, as well as pissed. I've noticed something. My very strict upload schedule is solely dependent upon when something triggers my very emotional man-child brain, causing a visceral soy reaction where I must bitch about it into my gaming microphone. And since you willingly clicked on this, you're subjected to it. Too bad. Do you guys remember when video games were a pastime that was almost exclusively delegated to fucking losers? I certainly do. Back in my youth, there was a distinct difference in class that separated the socially functioning individuals who would play the newest Call of Duty on their Xbox 360 for 20 minutes on the weekend from the individuals who would use their mother's credit card to purchase Manco supply keys for their girlfriend in Sweden, who was definitely not a 28-year-old incel. This separation of different groups of people based on such an insignificant distinction was reminiscent of discrimination in the past. But us gamers had no Martin Luther King Jr. The closest we had was PewDiePie. And this is how it stayed for a long time. Leave the sports and the Call of Duty releases to Jeremy Heights, number 34 quarterback, and the autistic mineral mining and goblin slaying to the forgettable loser. But times change. The TikTok game in the spotlight for the last 2 weeks seems to be this Lethal Company game. I never played it, but you basically just walk around some planet and talk to your little buddies about how scary it is while you pick up objects and run from goblins. It also just looks like complete shit. So why is every single human being you know, no matter what their social status, playing this garbage constantly? Well, there is only one stipulation that requires to be met for any TikTok browsing normie dumbfuck to indulge in a video game, no matter how ridiculous the premise. Video games as a medium are seeming to evolve to a point where their most valuable attribute is their ability to be a point of conversation, something for people to be able to bring up in a social setting to drive home their own interests. If there's one thing normal people love, it's themselves. And what better way to force that down other people's throats than to tell them all about your interesting little things that you enjoy? It's like Spotify Wrapped. I truly believe Spotify could charge $60 for the single PNG image of some dumbass's Tyler the Creator listening time, and they would pay for it in a heartbeat. So why would these same people not love to play whatever little game they see being praised on social media? They would be left out of the conversation if they didn't play it. They would simply have no input. I mean, why even exist if you can't input your worthless opinion into a meaningless conversation? So then where did this start? When did the idea of these goofy ass video games become mainstream on social media? Many of you would already know the answer, but the proprietor of all this is Among Us. Back in 2020, when quarantine had its hands around the throat of the poor souls who couldn't fathom a life of not having social interaction at every waking moment, some of us who have never been looked at by a female in our entire lives were as complacent as ever. So seeking this complacency, the average Joe started dipping their toes into the world of the undesirables. This was the start of certain platforms making a noticeable shift, like Twitch going from XQC screeching like a retard for millions of dollars to Kai Cenat screeching like a retard for millions of dollars. And in the midst of this, a perfect little meme game where you could chat with all of your buddies and make goofy memories, and they ate that shit up. You couldn't go 10 seconds without seeing the little Among Us character hit the nay-nay or something, and everything was perfect. Until like a month later, and the normal people moved on to whatever other instant gratification was the most socially acceptable at the time. I don't know, like the proxy war in Ukraine or some shit. And now, if you were to ever ask one of these individuals to get back on Among Us for old time's sake, they would just look at you like you asked if you could engage in a romantic relationship with their dad. Now I know what you're thinking. Obese loser, what's the problem with people just having fun? Why can't they just enjoy video games for what they are? Little meaningless time fillers where they can laugh and have fun with some friends in their downtime between their busy lives. And to that, I say,